Guys, it's Mrs. Elstock again. So this time I am going to go over IXL Assignment Y13, graphing equations from standard form using intercepts. So I'm going to go and show you guys where you can find some helper videos already within OMHS, and then I will go on to IXL and complete 2 examples with you. So once again, let's go into content and find IXL assignment Y13 because I always try to put lots of help information within the assignment name. This is from last week, so we are in Unit 4. Scroll on down and find assignment Y13, graph a line from an equation in standard form. I have the OMHS lesson that matches it. So make sure that if you're struggling with this assignment, make sure you've completed OMHS lesson 407 because that is similar to this assignment. And then there is a Khan Academy video here that goes over how to find X and Y intercepts because that's the method of graphing that this IXL assignment focuses on, is using the X and the Y intercepts to graph. Now, if you're still a little unsure after you've completed the lesson and watched this Khan Academy video, then that's what I am here for. I'm going to go over 2 examples on IXL for you. All right. So IXL assignment Y13, graph a line from an equation in standard form. And then if we read the directions, this is where we can see it wants us to use intercepts. Graph this function, so this equation, using intercepts. Now in the last video, Y12, we talked about how an equation was in standard form, which this is, that we can convert it to slope-intercept form to graph. That's what I do 90% of the time. So that is one good way that you can graph. But let's say that's difficult for you. You've gotten it, but you're like, I don't know if I'm going to remember that in the long run. It's kind of tricky. I might make a lot of mistakes. Well, this is another way that you can graph when you are given an equation in standard form. Because on the FSA and when you move on to high school next year, you will just be told to graph a line. And you can choose the method. You can choose to convert it to slope-intercept form, or you can choose to graph it using intercepts. I kind of direct you each way on these assignments because I want you to learn both ways. So that way, once you've learned both ways, you can pick what makes more sense to you and what you prefer to use. In case you don't remember this, we talked about X and Y intercepts in Unit 3. That was actually our very first unit, 302, where we discussed how to find the X and the Y intercepts from an equation. I'm going to rewrite the equation so that way we have room to work. X minus Y, oops, that's a bad Y, equals -10. Now, when we think about an X-intercept, if it's an X-intercept, that means it intercepts. It's on the X-axis. And any point that's on the X-axis is going to have a Y value of 0, because that means it doesn't go anywhere on the Y. That's what creates an X-intercept. That's what makes it stay on the X-axis. So if I want to focus on finding an X-intercept, that means I know that my ordered pair is going to have an X value and then a 0 for Y, which means I can substitute 0 in for Y, and that will give me the X value of my X-intercept. My equation is X minus Y equals -10. So I'm going to substitute, I'm going to sub in 0 for Y. X minus, it's no longer going to be a Y, I'm subbing that in with a 0, equals -10. Now I can solve this equation and it will give me the X value of my X-intercept. Well, it kind of looks funny, like I just have X minus 0. Do I really need to have X minus 0, or can I just say that's the same thing as X equals -10? Oh my goodness, look at that. That's it. That's my X value. That's my X-intercept. I'm going to write it as an ordered pair. Oops, let me fix that up. That means our X-intercept is -10, 0. And I can go ahead and plot that on my graph. So there we go, right there. I have 1 point, but I need 2 points to make a line, which is why we also want to find our Y-intercept. For our Y-intercept, very similar, only a Y-intercept is on the Y-axis, which means in order for it to stay on the Y-axis, this time I go nowhere on the X. So it's the opposite. I have a 0 for an X value and then some number for Y. So I'm going to substitute X equals 0, and that will allow me to find the Y value of my Y-intercept. With my equation, I have, instead of X, I'm subbing in 0 for X, and then everything else stays the same, minus Y equals -10. And kind of like before, like, do I really need to write 0 minus Y? Like, I don't really need that 0 there. So we just have -Y equals 10. Oh no, I'm starting to run out of room. But here's where I do have an extra step because that Y is not positive. So I need to get rid of that negative. What number is that negative? What is it really? Hopefully you said -1, because remember, mathematicians are lazy. If they don't have to write it, they won't. So there is really an invisible 1 right here because there's only one Y present. So they just expect us to know that there's a 1 there. So I can divide both sides by -1. A -1 divided by a -1 is a +1, which means we're left with Y. And then -10 divided by -1 would be a +10. Which means our Y-intercept is the point 0, +10. And yikes, that's slappy. Sorry, guys. I'm struggling to write today. Now we can graph that second point. IXL does the line for us. And when I hit submit here, it should say correct. There we go. We got our line using intercepts. All right, let's clear this and try one more. So same thing, the directions are not changing, is we want to graph using intercepts. So we are going to substitute zeros in so we can find both our X and our Y-intercept. Let me switch up my colors. So remember, for X-intercept, we have some number for X, and then our Y value is 0. So we are going to substitute 0 in for Y. My equation is 9x plus, instead of 7 times y, it'll be 7 times 0 equals 63. All right, now we have an equation which we learned back in Unit 2. So when I look at this equation, what's the first thing that I need to do? I need to simplify. We always want to simplify first. And in this case, I see I have 7 times 0. Well, what's 7 times 0? Love it. It's 0, which makes it super nice and easy. We have 9x equals 63. All right, let's keep going. Let's solve this equation. What's the next step? Hopefully you're thinking divide, because I see 9 times x, and the opposite, the inverse of multiplication, is division. So we're going to divide both sides by 9. 9 divided by 9 is 1, so we're just left with x. Copy. And then what is 63 divided by 9? 7. So we have an X-intercept at 7. So as an ordered pair, our point is 7, 0. Let's go ahead and graph that. So 6 space 8. Well, they didn't number every other one because otherwise it'd be too, they numbered every other one because otherwise it'd be too smushed. So that means this is 7. And make sure you put your point right there on the x-axis because an x-intercept is on the x-axis. Let's find our y-intercept now. So our y-intercept is the opposite. In order for it to be a y-axis, that means I go nowhere on my x and I have some number for my y. So this time, I'm going through the exact same steps, only I'm substituting 0 in for x instead of for y. Instead of 9 times x, we have 9 times 0. And then I only have one x to substitute, so everything else stays the same. So plus 7y equals 63. All right, let's solve this equation. What comes first? Simplify. 9 times 0 is 0, which goes away. Love it when that happens. And we're left with 7y equals 63. What's the next step? Hopefully you are dividing because I see 7 times y. The inverse of multiplication is division. 7 divided by 7 is 1. We're left with y. And 63 divided by 7 is 9. That's our answer. That's our y-intercept. So as an ordered pair, our y-intercept is 0, 9. That's a funky little 9. It's got a little antenna. Let's graph that. Ooh, and make sure you don't accidentally go here because obviously the counting is different whether you're going up or down, so be careful. 8, 10, so that means 9 is right here. And IXL draws the line for you. All right, hopefully this video has helped you guys out. If not, remember I have my help sessions every Monday and Thursday at 4 o'clock, and that's where you can come in and work on your IXL assignments and ask those questions. An email is back up, so you can also email me if you would like me to clarify with a few more questions or specifically go over some of your IXL questions. I can always do that. All right, bye guys. And if you're watching this today on Tuesday, then I'll see you tomorrow morning, Wednesday the 18th, for our live Class Connect session. Bye guys.